This stuff is quite possibly the worst building material ever manufactured. Masonite siding. In the 80s and 90s, particularly in the southeastern states where I live, this stuff was installed on more houses than you could ever possibly count. It was cheap, easy to install, and produced in massive quantities. And it became a ticking time bomb that would cause more property damage than any other material in home construction. Today I'm going to quickly cover what Masonite siding is, how to identify it, and how to address it if it's on your home. That's coming up next on the Honest Carpenter Show. My town, Raleigh, North Carolina, experienced a housing boom in the 80s and 90s. Tech development and biomedical companies brought people flooding into the area for good jobs, and the need to house them gave rise to sprawling suburban development. Construction-wise, this is always sort of a recipe for disaster. When an area experiences rapid growth like this, tract homes and subdivisions are basically the only way to meet housing demands. As such, contractors who can deliver volume on a short time frame are in high demand. And I'm not saying that you can't build a good house quickly, but when construction is going on this fast, the first thing that gets skimped on is material quality. There are a lot of subpar materials that contractors have used over the years, but the queen of them all, as far as I'm concerned, is Masonite siding. Initially, the product seemed like a good idea. Wood siding has always been an expensive option, and asbestos siding, popular since the 40s, had already triggered its own controversy and meltdown. Here, Masonite siding was a wood byproduct, and it contained nothing else except glues and resins. It was lightweight, it cut easily, installed easily, painted easily, and it seemed fairly durable even during the construction process. Major companies like Georgia Pacific and LP manufactured hundreds of millions of board feet of this stuff, and it flew onto houses all over the suburbs. And it wasn't just siding. Masonite trim boards and soffits were equally popular. Houses were completely covered in the stuff beneath the roofline. For a long time, no real issues emerged, but as these tract homes reached the 8 to 10 year mark, problems started to show up, and they pretty much all originated at the bottom of the house. Major rot and deterioration was occurring in the lower siding courses. Down there, so close to groundwater and rain splash, the stuff really suffered. It would saturate, bloat, and then when it dried, it would just fall apart like brittle leaves. This in itself was bad enough, but worse problems emerged when the material stayed wet for a long time. In these cases, it would often wick water back into the sheathing and framing materials where it could lay undiscovered for years. If you watched my video about the worst rot and termite damage I've ever come across, then you've seen firsthand what saturated Masonite siding can do to a house. That whole garage had to be reframed while standing up. Wet Masonite had served as a breeding ground for termites, and they went to work. And what I found were catastrophic results. By the mid-90s, homeowners and lawyers had cottoned onto the fact that this stuff was a major liability. Several class action lawsuits were brought, reimbursements were paid, and the product was effectively pulled from the lumber yards. By that time, hardy plank siding was making its grand debut, and despite being heavier and harder to work with, cement fiberboard did offer the long-term solutions that people were looking for. It seemed like the Masonite problem was solved, except it wasn't. Right now, even this far past the late 1990s, I still see houses suffering from Masonite failure. If Masonite was banned, and much of it fails within 10 years, how is it possible to observe this 25 to 30 years later? It's because even after Masonite was taken off the shelves, the material still continued to find its way into distribution under different names. They called it tempered hardboard or PRESSBOARD. This is your classic rebranding after a calamity. Manufacturers just took the Masonite label off the product, gave it a more generic name, and sent it right back out again. And this went on for much, much longer. Over the last 10 years, I've still routinely seen hardwood products on store shelves throughout NC. They'll exist under different names and descriptions, but they're still the same thing. And as far as I'm concerned, it should never be installed on the exterior of a home. So, why is this the case? Why does hardboard fail so badly, and how can you identify it on store shelves or on your house? The composition of the material makes answering both these questions easy. Masonite siding is essentially the same thing as Masonite backing board, these dark sheet materials that are often used in cabinetry. Yes, the stuff still exists for indoor usage because it's totally stable indoors. Again, Masonite is a wood byproduct. It's made of shredded wood fibers held together with glue and pressed under high temperatures, hence the name tempered hardboard. It's not that different from MDF, which I also did a video on. But an important thing to note is that the wood fibers get oriented into layers. So if you just pick it apart a little, you can see these layers, and these layers really show up when the material gets wet. Masonite acts like a sponge, especially along the edges. So while the painted surface can hold up the moisture penetration, the ends and bottom edges can't. As soon as water gets past the paint layer, those wood fibers drink it in and hold it there. The rotting process begins and there's no reversing it. It's just like cardboard at that point. So if I want to identify a hardboard product that is supposedly for exterior usage, I just look at the end of the board. I'm looking for that broomed appearance. Also, I try to reveal some of the color inside. It will typically be light to dark brown. Now, cement fiberboard, which we like, can also have layering, but it tends to be tighter, chalkier in appearance, and lighter in color. It's also usually a dull gray, and it breaks down into a powder when you crush it a little. A lot of these manufacturers say that their new hardboard products are like a new design. It's formulated for weather and the end grain gets sealed, so it's safe for outdoor usage. But I don't buy it. If it's wood fiber and glue, then I think it's still susceptible to the problems and failures that Masonite suffered from. So if you have an upcoming siding and trim project, make sure you understand what materials your contractor intends to use. PVC and cement fiberboard are the best exterior options available in most areas these days. And if you're worried your home already has hardboard on it, I can't stress this enough. Do a walk around. Look at the lower 3/4 of siding. Look at the bottom ends of your trim boards. If you see that puffy bloating, or if you see dark cavities in the material, pull a little bit of it out. Does it look like degraded sawdust? Is it continuing to flake? Does it look puffy around nail heads? If that's the case, there's a really good chance you have hardboard products on your house. You might want to consider having some remediation work done, but I'll say that this isn't the end of the world and you don't necessarily have to reclad the entire house. The funny thing about Masonite siding is that even after 30 years, much of it on the house will still be in good shape. Higher areas on the wall will often go completely unaffected as long as they're routinely painted. A great repair I've seen over the years is just replacing the lower 3 feet of siding and trim boards, because it's often only this lower area that is so badly affected. Hardy has created numerous siding types to match old Masonite styles. You can splice Hardy boards in with Masonite boards if you're careful. With new boards installed and everything painted, it's rarely evident that a repair even took place, and you can have a home exterior that will likely last many years to come. So that's cause for hope. But I'll still stand by the assertion that this stuff is the worst building material ever put on American houses. That's just my opinion though. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree? Let me hear about it down in the comments. Also, remember that at thehonestcarpenter.com, we help homeowners all over the country get their most important questions answered by a trade professional. Through our affordable phone and video consultations, we can discuss everything from major repairs to remodels and renovations, contractor issues, and even DIY solutions. If you need help, just book a time slot on our homepage at thehonestcarpenter.com. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to check back in for more videos coming up soon. And please consider subscribing and hitting that bell button to turn on notifications. That way you'll know the moment we post something. I'm Ethan James with thehonestcarpenter.com. I'll see you next time.